This is episode 158 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Tony Lopes. Tony is the CEO of Dirty Boots Capital, the author of Freedom at Risk, and a real estate investor, consultant professional, and macroeconomic enthusiast. Tony, welcome to the show.
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward.
I want to start here because we didn't talk about it on my episode with you, but when was the first time that you remember being interested in real estate?
So it was when I got laid off. Really, it's when it all started, which sounds pretty bad, pretty gloomy. But I'm probably like a lot of your listeners out there where, maybe came from immigrant parents. My parents were immigrants.
Yeah.
A lot of first generation and even second generation folks, we get the mantra from our parents, right? Who are trying to help us along the way. And they say, the mantra is go to school, get a good education, you'll get a good job, and you'll be taken care of for the rest of your life, right? I mean, it's a pretty familiar mantra that we all live by. And so I followed that, right? I was a young guy. Sure, mom and dad are trying to help me out. So I went to school, got a good education, actually got 2 degrees, a mechanical engineering degree, and an MBA, right? I had 2 great degrees from great schools. And then I got a great job. And then 4 years later, I got laid off. And I was like, wait a minute, this wasn't part of the mantra.
I thought I'd just stay at the company for 40 years, keep getting small bonuses, and then I'm happy, right?
Right. So that's really where, to jump to the chase, where real estate really came into play for me, because I took that as really an inflection point in my life to say, I don't really want to rely on just a sole source of income, being my W-2 job. And I'm not here to poo-poo W-2 job. That's not what I'm here to do. It served me well. And there's a lot of benefits. If you're a new investor, there are a lot of benefits to having a W-2 job. So I'm not here to kick anybody in the teeth for having good W-2, because there's benefits there. But for me, I looked at it and I said, hey, what do I do now? I wasn't financially independent, Jonathan, as you can imagine, right? I was paying my bills and whatnot. And so when I did land another job 3 months after being laid off, I had a lot of time to think. It wasn't like the economy we have now, where it's super strong economy, very low unemployment rate. If you were to leave one job, if they were to ever to let you go, you could find another job pretty easily. That wasn't the case when I was laid off. It took me 3 months to get another job. And so only once I was there for a little bit and I saved up a little bit of money for a down payment along with my HELOC was I able to go and start with real estate investing.
I've always said that I think more people they're much more scared of winning than they are of losing. They win and they immediately crap their pants and they're like, why did I do this? You're like, we've been working for 6 months for you to get one accepted. Now you get one accepted and you want to cancel right away.
It's getting over that psychology of things. And I share with folks, right? So, sure, I have a technical degree, but I would have been better served in the real estate business doing what I do with a psychology degree than an engineering degree. And so that's a lot what I do with folks is work to get over those psychological hurdles. One of which is like, there's so many conversations I have with folks who say, oh, I could have bought that building 10 years ago. And so the question becomes not like, oh, how much money are you losing? I don't care about that. The question I ask, so why didn't you? Right. Let's take some time, because that's super valuable. Why didn't you buy it? What was your roadblock? Was it fear? Was it being uneducated? Was it you didn't have the right down payment? Let's investigate that, because I don't want to go through, a year with you if that roadblock is still there. We got to tear that down. So that's an interesting thing. The psychology of it, and folks get paralyzed with writing an offer. And I say the only way you're going to get over that is by writing offers, write offers, and we build them. We help them build those offers so that they do have some exit strategies along the way. So it removes that fear of writing an offer.
Yeah, and I think people get into the habit of making lowball offers because they don't really want to win,
Yeah.
and then when they do win, then they're like, oh, well, something really must be wrong with it. So I think it's really important that you brought up the psychological part because this is about the mindful approach to real estate investing. It's negotiation is one thing. You can read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, get some phenomenal tips. But each person, just as you were saying, each coaching client comes to you differently. Each person on the other side, seller, agent, they all negotiate differently. And you have to know if they're fluffing or not, because that's where you're going to be able to figure out, where the best deal metrics are.
Yeah, and this is what goes back to what we were earlier speaking about is, seeking out those that have come before you, right? You and I, we can see these things in folks. Maybe it was, how we first started doing real estate, maybe wrong. Maybe it's through some of the other clients, right? We see this psychological dynamic playing out. Whereas, it's kind of like we don't always see ourselves the same as other people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like you're being a jerk, right? And so we see that sometimes it takes another person to see things more clearly. And I think with a coach, with a mentor, with a buddy or somebody that's come before you, they might be able to see things more clearly in you than you see in yourself. We cannot control the macro of things, right? I can't control whether there's going to be a recession or not in the next year. I can't, and there's so much doom and gloom out there that you become fearful for these
It's
things.
just like a news cycle.
But if you've been listening to and not to throw them under the bus, I respect them and I know a lot of people do, but a lot of people know that Robert Kiyosaki has been sharing doom and gloom. The real estate market is going to crash over the last 15 years.
Yeah,
And if you were not, right? And if you listen to that advice, I mean, you'd still be poor today,
yeah,
right? So you got to be careful of where it's coming from and what they're talking about. We look at macro and we're not all like, we're not excited about some of those negative things, like maybe a recession is going to happen. But that's one of the reasons why we play in Florida, because we look at it and we say, to your point, there's so many retirees that are moving to Florida. When a recession hit, like they're going to be more immune to a recession because those retirees, those folks have a solid pension that's still paying them out, or have solid Social Security that's still paying them out, or some combination, so that they're still going to restaurants, they're still
yeah,
going to
yeah.
the stores to buy, right?
So real estate is, buy real estate and wait, not wait to buy real estate. So if you're thinking long term, sometimes you do have to ditch a property. Life brings you something and you have to do it. But that's why it's cool to have assets that you can trade, especially like when you were saying when you had, a 3, a 4, a 2, you look at them all and say, well, I have to get rid of one. Which one's like underperforming or which
Yeah.
one performing the best?
And I don't know what other field gives you that.
Yeah.
We have a client now that's purchasing a duplex, and we're having such amazing conversations because he's talking about all these different things he can do and da, da, da. And I'm like, that's right, because real estate provides you that
Yeah.
opportunity to do it. If you didn't have this property, your opportunities would be virtually none. But because you have this property, this rental, you can go off and start exploring some of these other things. And it's so cool that it provides that. And sometimes it takes people to actually be in the game to actually see that door open for them. I just want to like really dive a little bit deeper into is, if you're an individual, know your value, right? Don't come with an ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't come to me and say, "Hey, Tony, do you have $1 million I can borrow?" I don't want to hear that, right? Nobody wants that, right?
And
Don't
can I take
ask.
you to coffee for 15 minutes? No,
Right.
thanks.
Exactly, right? Don't come with that ask. Bring something, right? And there's so many syndicators, sponsors, partners that will say that, right? Bring me a property. Maybe you can't afford the down payment, or
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you work. But bring me a deal. Show me that you ran the numbers and this works. You just need a little bit of help with the down payment. Okay, bring me something. Don't just come with an ask.
Yeah.
Understand the value you're bringing to the party.